What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Jared Williams Show. Today we got special guests with us. We're going to talk all things financials, and we're going to make it cool. So stay tuned, because if you don't know your financials, you're screwed. And we got my favorite person on planet Earth about financials, other than my wife, Kristen Deese. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Yes.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me again.
So, you know a lot about financials.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, I got to talk to you guys about PlumbLine, 24-hour answering service. If you guys aren't answering your phone, again, you're stupid. You're paying money to get those calls coming in. Get them answered. Book them on your schedule. Quit wasting your money. And even if you've got a CSR or you're trying to answer phones, there's times where they can't get to the phones. You can send your after-hours calls to PlumbLine. They've got U.S. agents. They pick up your phone. They act like they're your company. They do a really good job, really high booking rates, and then you only pay per book call. If you're interested in that, go to PlumbLineAnswers.org and tell them you heard about them from the Jared Williams Show, and you get 1 week of free booked calls. So go check them out. PlumbLineAnswers.org. Awesome service. Use them in all my businesses. Again, check them out. Alrighty. Okay. So you and your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Your husband's been on the podcast. You've actually been on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it didn't get recorded.
It didn't. It was so good, too.
Yep. But you and your husband have owned a ton of trades businesses.
Yes.
And when I say a ton, how many is that? I don't even know.
5?
5? And you still own 1?
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
We're officially not. I mean, we have our coaching and consulting businesses, but as far as trades, no.
You're done. For now.
For now.
Okay. So, and then, your role in the businesses, has it always been?
My role in the business,
books?
yeah, pretty much. I went to college for accounting, and my brain works in that manner.
Yep.
Pretty well. So it was pretty natural for me to take over those responsibilities.
Yep.
And Justin's the sales guy / people person.
Yeah.
So it was natural for him to do sales and leadership, but he needed help with financials and systems and all of that super logical, organized type stuff.
Yep.
So that was naturally the role that I stepped into. And it was so crazy because you go to school for a topic for 4 years and you come out with a degree.
Yeah.
And then you get into the real world and you're like, this is nothing like what I learned in school.
Yeah.
So then I had all of the years of experience to actually learn small business accounting, which was kind of different than what I actually even went to school for.
Yeah.
But the theory was good.
And so then you own all these trades businesses, and now you own the virtual CFO.
Yes. So a couple years ago, I started a company called the Virtual CFO for the Trades. It actually was born because I had a client that I was doing some just business coaching for. We were doing just foundational stuff, like organizational charts and vision and all that kind of stuff. And he had a guy that worked in the company who wanted to learn how to do the accounting role, but as a business owner, he didn't know how to do that role. And so he couldn't really teach the guy who wanted to learn how to do it. So he called and he said, hey, I have this guy. He wants to learn accounting. Do you think you can teach him? And by this time, Justin and I had been business owners for long enough that entrepreneurial spirit had rubbed off. So without thinking, I was like, yeah, totally. And then basically built the business around that.
Yep. That sounds like something your husband would say.
Right. Oh, yeah.
We can do that. Let's go.
So that's kind of how it started. And then it has snowballed from there into financial training for business owners, training for accounting, in-house accounting team. We do bookkeeping now. Aside from the core service, which is just that higher level CFO oversight and conversations. And
what does a CFO do?
Yeah. So to know what a CFO does, sometimes it's a little easier to think about what they don't necessarily do. Okay. So
I just know that I saw on Facebook that Tommy Mello said everybody should have a CFO.
Well, Tommy Mello is right.
Okay.
So when we think of the accounting side of things, we tend to think of CPAs and then associate the CPA with tax preparation.
Yep.
Okay. So the CFO doesn't necessarily do tax preparation. We're looking at the same set of books, but we're doing it through a different lens. So where a CPA is focusing on how do you pay the least amount of taxes, aka how do you get your income as low as possible.
Yep.
As a CFO, I'm looking at operations and efficiencies and saying, how can I get your net income to be as high as you can as possible so that one, your business is more valuable, you're making more money.
Yep.
And then it's more fun to run a business with higher net income levels.
Yes.
Speaking from experience, it sucks when it's 3% and you're like struggling for cash flow. It's more fun when it's closer to 20%.
Yes.
So, so I take all of the years of experience in home services and go through the numbers and say, okay, these are the areas where you need to focus on. This is the area of the greatest opportunity. This is the one that you're doing really well in. Now go run and fix operations and then come back next month and we're going to do it all again.
Okay. So then at what point does a business need that?
Well, to understand numbers, the earlier the better. The trick is that a lot of business owners use numbers isn't really my gig as a scapegoat to not look at them at all.
Yeah.
And while I get it, we don't necessarily want to flex the muscle we're weak at, but we still do need to spend some time with it.
Yep.
And get to know what the reports are saying and what we need them to say. And really, beyond anything else, it's making the connection between what am I doing in operations and how does that affect my numbers and vice versa.
And when you say your numbers, you mean?
All of them.
Profit and loss statement?
All of them. Income statements.
Yep.
The revenues, the gross profit levels.
Yep.
The net income. What's your overhead? What's your labor? What should be in cost of goods sold? What shouldn't?
Yep.
You don't, from a very early on, I don't feel like you need to know all the super finite details.
No.
But you do need to have a general idea of what is a cost of goods sold and why is that important? What is gross profit margin? Why is that important?
Agreed. I feel like I lucked out because I like numbers.
Yeah.
So I would always calculate the numbers on my phone or on a spreadsheet, but I had no idea, I didn't know about the balance sheet, and I'd look at my P&L and go there'd be like 18 grand at the bottom line. I'd be like, I don't have that.
Right, it's not in my account.
I don't know where it went. So I'd look at that and go, I'm confused. And my accountant would be like, you're doing so good.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I am?
Yeah.
And I was not doing good.
Yeah.
My bank account wasn't doing good. And I was always confused by that.
Well, so when we do financial reviews, we always review 3 reports. So we always do the P&L, also known as the income statement. It's the same thing. So we do that one, and then we do the balance sheet, and then we do the statement of cash flows. And between those 3, you can get a more clear picture of what's going on in your business.
Yep.
If you just look at the income statement, you're missing 2/3 of the information
Yep.
that would determine whether or not you're sleeping well at night. You could be doing really good on your P&L, and if the other 2 reports are painting a different cash story, then it doesn't matter what you're doing on your P&L.
Yep.
If the cash isn't there to make payroll.
Yep.
Yeah.
So can we just go through that?
Yeah.
So I had somebody reach out to me the other day. We did one podcast a long, long time ago where we just went through the P&L and how it works.
Yeah.
And this guy's I think he's 50 years old, and he's been running a business for 20 years. And he told me, I had no idea how my P&L works until I watched your podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang. He goes, it has changed. My business is totally different now because I understand my P&L. So let's just start from the top.
Okay.
What's at the very top?
Very top. Very top is always going to be revenue or income. Same thing. Or sales.
Yep.
It's all the same thing, just different words. So
it just gets labeled differently? By different bookkeepers or what?
No. So QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks in general, I think they default to income as the terminology. If you are a ServiceTitan user, ServiceTitan calls it revenue.
Yep.
That's for jobs completed, but that's different than sales, which is for things that you've sold but not necessarily completed yet.
Yep.
But it could be called any of those 3 things. The point is that it is the jobs completed and the total number of those invoices all added up.
Is it the actual cash that came into your bank account?
Depends.
Depends on what you're looking at.
It depends on whether or not you are running a cash basis or accrual basis accounting, which cash basis is not really appropriate for home services. There's a lot of bookkeepers who will do cash basis because it's easy and fast and cheap. It's inexpensive to provide that service.
Mm-hmm.
However, in home services, we want to be on accrual because most of the time we're COD. We get paid right away, but not always.
Yep.
We want to be able to count that revenue when we do it, regardless of when we actually collect the money for it.
Right.
In the same breath, we want to be able to record the expense of the cost of goods sold when we actually get the product and use it,
Right.
as opposed to when we pay for it, because that might be later.
That way you're not buying a AC system on the last day of the month and billing for it on the first, and
yeah, we have a
disappears on the last day or that month and then appears really good the next month.
Makes it really hard to figure out what your actual material percentage is. So if we're using accrual and we're recording the revenue when we do the job, and we're recording the cost of the product when we use the cost of the product, then the chances of us aligning revenue and our materials in the same month are higher. If we do the job and we get paid for it in December and we get the product in December, but we don't pay for it until January, now we're on cash basis, that we're counting the revenue in December, but we're not counting the costs until January. So it makes it harder to align if our product is at the right percentage.
See, I didn't understand all that in my last business. So we paid everything off.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Just so I enjoyed looking at my bank account and going, that's how much cash I have for some reason.
Yeah.
But slightly unnecessary.
Yeah.
Although the vendors did love it.
I'm sure.
Like we were their favorite client. Like they bent over backwards for us.
Yeah.
So that part was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have money coming in at the top.
We have money coming in at the top.
And we're looking at this report over a period of time.
Yes.
And we can look at it as long or short of a period of time as possible.
Yes. I personally think that we should at least have a month in there.
Okay.
There are some people that like to look at P&Ls on like a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think for revenue and cost of goods sold, you could get away with that, but that's really hard for overhead because there's so many overhead expenses that only hit once a month.
Yeah.
And so if you have a whole bunch of them hit in the first week, it's going to completely jack up your P&L for that week. So I usually like to just look at the P&L at least like for 1 month, but then I'm always comparing it to the previous 2 months so that when I look at a P&L, I'm always comparing it on a 90-day rolling period. I do that because if you're looking at just the month by itself, you don't have any perspective to know whether or not you have changed in any way on any of your numbers. But if you're only looking at 2 months, then you see a change, but you don't know if it's a trend yet.
Right.
So if we do 3 months, then we can start to see a trend if there is one. Greater than 3 months, while possible to look at, for people who are not numbers people, it gets to be overwhelming. And then we have a hard time like even taking your eye across the line because there's just too many numbers.
Yep.
So if you do 3 months, from that perspective, it gives you at least some sort of reference point.
Okay.
As to where you are.
So money's coming in at the top. And then what happens?
Well, we might give some away in discounts.
Yep.
We might give some away in refunds.
Yep.
And then after those 2 lines, then we start getting into our cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is one of those things that if you ask 10 different people what should be in cost of goods sold, you're going to get 10 different answers.
I like that.
So the main 2 that I don't think anybody argues is your technician labor and your materials.
So, and then tell me, what about benefits for the labor?
I personally don't think that should go into cost of goods sold. But if you ask somebody else, they might get a different opinion. I think that's overhead. I like to be able to align my costs for the job with what I would be able to put as a PO or material cost in my CRM software for job costing purposes. So if I'm speaking towards ServiceTitan users, I would say in ServiceTitan, when you do the job costing per job, you can see the amount that you charge for the job to the customer, and then it tracks the labor. So yes, you can put a labor burden in there, which I usually only just consider like payroll taxes for a labor burden. I don't really usually put a whole lot in there. But the idea would be that we would want to match what we're counting in labor burden, materials, and POs We want that to be the same line items that we're also tracking as cost of goods sold, so that when we see a gross profit margin on our per job in Service Titan, it should be really close to the gross profit margin that we're seeing on our
I like
P&L
that
at the
idea.
same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, let's say you have to rent a piece of equipment for this job, or you can put that in as a PO. And now we see the rental on the P&L. We also see it on the job costing in Service Titan.
Yep.
If you have to use a sub, you can add a PO. We see that as a cost of goods sold on the P&L. We also see it in job costing on Service Titan.
Yeah.
Where I see it get a little, we'll call it diluted, would be taxes, benefits, workers' comp, vehicle. I've seen people put vehicle expenses in there because, listen, you can make the argument, well, I can't go to the job if I don't have the van.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. But can you tie the exact cost of that van to a job? Not really.
No.
You have to kind of estimate.
And if you don't do the job, the van payment is still
there.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Yep.
So I like to just say, if I can tie it to a job, cost of goods sold. If I can't, overhead.
I like that. What about payroll taxes?
Okay, so the trick with payroll taxes is that you actually have to take a few extra steps to split it between administrative people, and it doesn't really give you any valuable information in terms of running your business. So don't bother taking the extra step. Just let all payroll tax hit as an overhead in one bucket and get detailed somewhere else.
Okay. Deal. So I actually went and changed. We have a calculator in our school group that basically gives you all the information for a fake P&L.
Yeah.
And I actually changed where we put the benefits. I put it back in the overhead expenses because of our last conversation. And I confused a whole bunch of poor souls because they were like, my numbers aren't lining up anymore. And I'm like, well, now you need a higher gross profit because you don't have labor.
You're not counting that in there anymore. Yeah.
It's like at Prospector, we always ran it at 54% gross profit, but all of our benefits and taxes were up there on the technicians. Now, when I run it for Wahoo with the benefits down below, it's closer to a 60, 65-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a really important point for anybody who is looking at gross profit margin and comparing themselves to anybody else in the industry.
Yeah.
Be really careful doing that because you don't know what they're putting in their cost of goods sold compared to what you are. And there's the chances of you actually comparing apples to apples is very slim.
Yes.
Individual line items, you can a little easier, like a labor line item, a materials line item, an equipment line item, sure. But gross profit margin, compare yourself to yourself and beat your personal record. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing.
So here's where I'm confused, is that I threw those taxes and benefits for those technicians down the overhead, which means that I need to hit a 65-ish. I don't know the real number, so I'm going to say 65.
Sounds great.
It used to be 55. So now, and I'm charging that extra margin on the labor and the material now. So
are you a time and material shop or are you flat rate?
No, flat rate.
Okay.
But I price everything on margin based on gross margin. Me personally, I have 4 different price points in Service Titan based on efficiency of the task and efficiency of the materials.
Okay.
Because like a water heater, I know exactly what the water heater is going to cost. We go to repipe your kitchen sink. One day it could be $20. The next day it could be $40.
Right.
So we have a higher margin on those inefficient tasks and a lower margin on those efficient tasks. So we do an efficiency calculation, and then we do, here's the gross margin. The gross margin is the same across the board. The idea is we should be able to hit that margin on our P&L.
Yes.
So.
But then you get to your P&L and it's not there?
No.
Okay.
Well, I don't know yet, but at Prospector, we always got it there.
Okay.
But so, with the benefits up in there, it was 55%. I take the benefits and move them to overhead. It means I need to mark those up more. And what it does, my labor seems slightly cheaper and my materials it affects the bigger materials more when I do that. So it kind of rearranges our pricing a little bit in the price book. Does that make sense?
Yes, because you have to be generating more gross profit dollars in the job because
the dollars seem the same, but it's like some of it shifts from labor over to materials on the higher material tax.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the weight of those individual expenses. So now the weight of the materials is a little heavier because you have lightened the weight of the labor cost.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. Which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
At the end of the day, if the net income is where it needs to be, it's fine.
I feel like it's a good thing because typically in the past, like the hardest things for us to convert have been, I'm going out there and it's like a 30-minute thing. And It's all labor.
Yeah.
And so now my labor rate's a little bit lower. Seems like conversion rates on those will be higher. It'll make up for it on some materials on a water heater.
Yeah. So different types of jobs. And we see this in HVAC and garage doors, probably a little bit more than we see it in plumbing. But when you, especially like if we talk about HVAC, so you have install and you have service. We want to departmentalize that gross profit margin because one, it's a different gross profit margin goal between the two. And partly because when you look at the labor materials individually on an install versus the labor materials individually on service, what you're shooting for as a goal is different.
Yep.
So when you think about an HVAC install, the product that you're installing is really expensive compared to the labor that you're paying to install it. But when you're looking at the service side, a lot of times it's the labor that is heavier because you got to pay the technician the time to diagnose and make the repair. And it might be a $10 part that they're actually using to repair. Right. So the labor materials percentages need to be different between the two.
Yep.
If you have a company, and some people in plumbing will split it out too, and they'll have a plumbing install and a plumbing service, and therefore they can apply the different labor materials to the things like water heaters and tanklesses and some of the repipes, some of the bigger jobs, and then they'll keep service work separate for that reason. You're paying for the labor, not the materials. It's a little trickier, I think, to do it in plumbing because there's more gray area of determining whether or not it's actually an install or a service. Unlike HVAC and garage doors, it's like pretty obvious which one it is.
We're going to be there for a few days. That's an install.
Yeah.
Or even a whole day. Yeah.
And it could be how long are we going to be there? It could be is what we're installing the bigger piece of the cost here? Like, is the cost of the softener or the heater or the tankless or the whatever? Like, if it could be that's the determining factor. It's just a little trickier, I think. But yes, you're right. There's different jobs that are going to look a little weird when you know that it's labor heavy as opposed to materials heavy.
When we figured that out at Prospector, that we could actually price our installs lower and still hit the same gross profit, I felt stupid because all these years I was like, no, our hourly rate is our hourly rate and I'm not going any lower. And then we start, we're like crazy installs, like $50,000, $60,000 boiler installs that we could have been doing the whole time for 30. Still expensive, but we could have done them for 30 or 35. Still made really good money.
Yeah.
And when we did that, it's like conversion rates go up on all that stuff. And
so I think it's that's an interesting point of the definition between gross profit margin and gross profit.
Yeah.
So gross profit margin is the percent. Gross profit is the dollars.
Yes.
So you're not always going to pull the same gross profit margin on certain jobs. There are certain jobs that if you stood your ground and said, we're not selling this for less than 65% gross profit margin, you may never sell them because you're going to price yourself out of the market.
Right.
And those are usually the higher end jobs. You end up taking a lower gross profit margin percentage, but the dollars that are generated from that are plenty to go towards the overhead that could have been potentially allocated to that job.
One thing I never thought about too is the cost of not converting that.
Yeah.
Because that cost has to get covered on your other jobs. Mm-hmm. So like a prime example of that was my old company was toilets, for example. I think our toilets were like $1,400 or something like that. We never sold them.
Yeah.
Yet we still got called out for toilets and we couldn't tell the customer no. And so we would go out and number one, pay for the marketing.
Yep.
Pay for the guy to go there, pay for the gas, the vehicle insurance, the whole 9 yards for the customer to say no. And we could have sold it at cost even and covered the marketing expense. We would have been better off. Okay. We probably could have sold the toilet for $600 and been better off, right? And never even crossed my mind.
Yeah, but now you have 2.0. So
We do have 2.0.
2.0.
And our
gives you the
toilets are
opportunity to
much
fix all
cheaper.
that.
Yes. Toilets are much cheaper. I'm thinking about this business so much
I
differently.
know. Isn't that cool though?
It is cool.
Like we enjoyed that. We enjoyed the identifying what we wanted to repeat and not repeat
Yep.
from 1.0 and
Yep.
2.0 and then 3.0 and then whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yep. We're trying to get more strategic
Yeah.
with the materials we buy,
Mm-hmm.
the options we offer, and the pricing on those. And all those things align with our marketing as well.
Yeah.
So it's all this nice, congruent thing. And then if you're a pain in the ass, you're out.
Yeah.
That's it.
You don't just charge them a pain in the ass tax?
I mean, employees.
Oh.
Employees.
My customers.
So tired of pain in the ass employees.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. That's the worst. Hopefully non-pain in the ass employees exist out there.
They do.
Well, I know they do. I've got a few, but just like they're few and far between.
Yep. It's okay. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. So we got money coming in and we're taking out, we're subtracting labor and materials minimum.
Yeah. Plus, like equipment rental is usually up there if you have to rent any equipment to get a job done. And contractors, every now and then you might have to use a sub for something. So that would be up there. Permits could be up there if you have to pull permits.
Yep.
And
all those things are your COGS, which is
your
cost of goods sold.
Mm-hmm.
The things you sell back to the customer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you can tie it directly to a job, that's kind of usually the thing that I think about. If I can tie that directly to a job, financing fees could be potentially one. That's a fee that you're assuming, and you can straight up tie that to a specific job. Could potentially be part of your cost of goods sold. But at the end of the day, especially if you're in Service Titan, I would really try to align my cost of goods sold with whatever it is that I'm entering as job cost into Service Titan. Because if you are taking all that time to put in all that information into Service Titan and you're like, shoot, yeah, this thing's saying that I have a 70% gross profit margin.
Yep.
And then you get into QuickBooks and you see I have a 55% gross profit margin. You may not make the connection that there's more things in your cost of goods sold in QuickBooks than there is in the job costing. And you're like pulling your hair out constantly trying to figure out why Service Titan says I have a killer gross profit margin and QuickBooks says I don't.
Yep.
So if we can make those the same, we're measuring the same things.
Yeah.
Then if we see that there's a different number in here, now we can have more opportunity to pinpoint the issue. Is it costing me more in labor than I think it should be costing me? Yep. Are my materials costing me more than what I think they should be costing me?
Been there, done that.
Is it taking me longer? Like, what is it? Are we not pricing? What am I not taking into account?
Yep.
You wouldn't be able to catch that necessarily if you had a whole bunch of extra stuff in your cost of goods sold that wasn't in job costing and Service Titan.
Yeah.
So there's like the other thing to think about too is specifically labor. Unless you are performance-based pay, you're paying people even when they're not on the job. So if they're dispatched and they're on the job, it's going to be part of that job. But there's downtime in between. There's idle time. There's training time. There's shop time. There's times where we clock in and we go to the bathroom for 30 minutes. Whatever they do, all of that is time, right?
Yep.
That shows up as cost in QuickBooks, but we can't capture that on a per job basis in Service Titan.
Yep.
So if there's a big variance there, that would be where is all this time going? What are we paying for?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about, so we take out COGS, we're left with gross profit.
Yeah.
What about, I've heard of people putting like credit card fees and financing fees
in cost of goods sold?
Above cost of goods sold. So before they.
Oh, like
up by the discounts.
Oh, okay. Nah. Okay. I keep going back to Service Titan only because.
Depending on how you put it in Service Titan?
Kind of, yes. So like part of our month-end close would be, does the revenue on the dashboard in Service Titan match what the income says in QuickBooks? And Service Titan is taken into account your job revenue, your discounts, and your refunds on the dashboard.
Yep.
So those are the three things that I would want to be in my income section so that when I looked at QuickBooks income for December and I looked at my dashboard for December, they should be really stinking close.
Yes.
We want to do that because the people who are running the business and looking at the dashboard and being held accountable to revenue may not be seeing the P&L.
Right.
And we want that number that they see in Service Titan to be real. We also want that same real number to be in QuickBooks so that all the other numbers then fall into place.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
when you're building out Service Titan, so when you're trying to figure out, because Service Titan, you've got to give it your hourly rate, and then you give it your material markup or margin, however you want to do it. Where do you put your credit card fees? When do you figure that into your hourly rate, or do you add it in as a surcharge?
Please don't surcharge on credit card fees.
Okay.
If anything, mark your prices up 3.5% and give a 2% discount for people who pay with check and cash.
There you go.
Yeah, no service fees. Okay, so what I would do is I would say if my gross profit margin goal was 60% and I wanted to make 20% in net, then that means that I would have 40% of overhead.
Correct.
And my credit card fees would need to be covered in that 40%.
Yep, that's how I view it.
Yeah.
So it gets baked into
your other overhead stuff.
Well, it gets baked into my labor rate and my material markup. Both cover it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. I'm doing it right then. Okay. So what is gross profit?
Gross profit is what is left over after you've paid for your cost of goods sold. It is there to cover your profit and your overhead. I said that in a specific order.
Yeah, it's good. How many people do you think misunderstand what gross profit is? I talk to a lot.
Yeah, I think they get gross and net confused a little bit. Yep. Yes. They all tend to know what overhead is.
Yep.
I don't know that they're necessarily confusing it so much, but I think the relationship between what the gross profit margin is and what it needs to cover, I think sometimes gets a little confused in that we think about the gross profit margin is left over to cover overhead. And then what's left over after that is net income.
Right.
In my personal opinion, we're putting net income too low on the totem pole of importance.
Yep.
So we ought to be taking out or factoring in our profit first, and then it gives us an allowance for overhead.
Yep.
Okay. So if we
That's why Justin can't buy cameras.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. He has a spending limit. So if we have a 60% gross profit margin and we want 20% net income, that means that our allowance for overhead is 40%. That means we have to keep it in that range. What ends up happening though is we're like, well, we need this expense, we need this overhead, we need this, we need this, we need this, and then before you know it, your overhead is 50%, and all you're doing is cutting into your net income.
So why can't we just raise prices?
Well, I mean, you can raise prices as high as your market will bear.
Yeah. Do you believe there's an actual, like, there's got to be, because, I mean, I used to say, like, screw what the market says. Like, don't even think about that. Just do the math. The math doesn't lie. And I kind of still slightly go that way, but
there's a ceiling.
There has to be. If everything was free, everybody would say yes. If everything was $1 million an hour, everybody would say no.
Right. I think there's a ceiling. I think that you can go as high as your market will bear until your very strong team starts to struggle with conversion. And there's a balancing point there, I think. If you're converting too high, you are probably priced too low.
Yeah.
If you're converting 80, 90%, your prices need to go up.
And what's the harm in that? Is it just that you could take a lower conversion rate and actually make more net?
Yeah. It's opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. You will get to a point, though, which there's two camps of thought here. There's my customers will never pay that thought process, which isn't true necessarily. You need to make sure that you have the right customer in front of you, because not every customer is your customer.
Yeah.
And you need to make sure that you're building value in your sales process.
Yep.
And if you're not doing those two things, then you're right. The customer is never going to pay, and they're always going to go with the cheapest price. But we don't want the customer that wants the cheapest price. Right. We want the one that values the value.
Right.
So if we are in front of the right customer and we are building our value, then I think you can push pricing up to where your conversion rate for a good selling tech starts to come down below probably like 60% probably.
Yeah.
On service.
It's right about where we were with Prospector.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and we were expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. We we were more expensive and sat at a 48% conversion rate
Yeah.
for a long time. Made a lot of money like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we dropped pricing a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and we jumped to a 60% profit or 60% close rate, we made a lot more money.
That conversion rate is so important because of what you mentioned earlier, especially around marketing cost. You are paying for those leads whether you convert them or not.
Yep.
So it's definitely about finding the right balance. And I think it's a little different for each company, whatever that right balance is of the correct conversion rate.
Yeah, because even thinking about, up there in Prospector, it was hell getting guys. Like it was almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, they got to go through a 5-year apprenticeship. They got to pass their plumbing test. Most of the guys still suck when they get out. Like finding good guys was probably the hardest part. And we were in a small market, and we were taking on the majority of, we probably had 10% of the market share at that point very quickly. Mm-hmm. And so we couldn't keep up. So we just were more expensive. And then, down here though, so like up there was like, well, let's be expensive and convert less and do less work and make more money with less effort. That's kind of the idea. Down here, I can see if I wanted to grow, I might keep my prices lower or my conversion rates higher, prices lower to collect customers for longer, and then go raise my prices early on in the business phase.
It's definitely it's easier to find team here, I think, because our licensing rules are a lot less strict.
Way less
than that, for sure. And I mean, new in the market, yeah. I think that's probably a decent strategy, new in the market.
I need reviews. Mm-hmm. Is what I need.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
I think the only challenge or the thing that I would want to avoid is a steep price hike.
Yep.
It'd have to be gradual.
Yep.
Over time. So somebody I was talking to, this has actually come up several times in conversation about people nervous. Well, I can't go up 10% of my price book because my customers are going to know. No, they're not. It's been a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years since you've serviced them. They're not going to notice a price. Oh, here's another thing too. Don't tell your technicians you raised your price.
They won't even notice.
No. But if you tell them, they'll go freaked out.
Nope. I raised prices $105 overnight. Mm-hmm. And I thought everybody's going to quit. and nobody said a word. Customer.
But if you would have told them, they would have. Nobody's buying because the prices are too high. Nope, nobody's buying because
Nope. Yeah, I was flabbergasted. We were losing like 20 or 30K a month, and I was running out of money quickly, and we were just running really inefficiently. I had no idea, and I was like, well, I guess we got to raise prices. I didn't know what else to do. And I raised them $105 overnight, raised our material markup another 20%. And I was like, well, it's either going to work or it's not.
Yep.
And it worked.
Bought
us buy for a good 6 months. And then we actually started making money for the first time. And then I started learning about labor efficiency and material efficiency. And I was like, oh, that's where all that money is going. I got it.
Labor efficiency. I think one of the places it goes that people don't really realize is trips to big box retailers to grab parts.
Yeah.
When you're on a job and your technician leaves the job to run to Home Depot to grab blah, blah, blah part and come back, they're probably overpaying for the part you could have got cheaper at your distributor.
Yep.
And the time that it took for them to leave.
Tons of time.
And if you are not performance-based pay, we were paying for that.
Yes.
And there's a company I was looking at recently who had like 12 trips in a day across all of their trucks.
A day. That's no bueno.
I know.
So, like, what do you do to fix that?
Well, and you can have better restocking system, a better replenishment system. You can have more organized trucks so that the guys always know what they have and where to find it. A lot of times, if their truck is a mess, they'll go in there and be like, oh, nope, can't find it. Let me run to the store.
Yep.
You can put them on performance-based pay so that they feel it too when they have to do that.
Yep.
You can take away their credit cards because when they have to buy it with their own money and turn in a receipt for reimbursement, they magically find the part in their truck.
Yeah.
It's so
They keep their
crazy.
truck stocked somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. There's a couple things. It depends on what the reason is that they're doing it.
Yeah. And then since you mentioned labor efficiency, when I started tracking billable efficiency in Service Titan, ours was terrible. And probably the best thing we did to get it up was just a commission structure, some sort of bonus structure. That helped a ton. We went from like 50% to 80% seemingly overnight, which was frustrating. It was like, what's wrong with you guys? You could have been doing this the whole time.
You just got to find the right motivation.
Yes. How much of that, like when you guys are, because we just did this, we built our price book and we're building these line items to change a toilet flapper takes this much time. How do you guys think about that time when you're building your price book? Is it wrench time? Is it travel time and wrench time and customer time and cleanup time all built in or what?
You know what? I don't know that I can put a solid answer to that just because, especially in our last business when we were really focusing on billable efficiency, I was not building the price book. I would say that you have to be careful with, so billable efficiency percentages, it's very much dependent on the amount of time that you put in the price book for how long it should take, right? So here's the deal. Even if you overestimate or underestimate everything in there,
yeah,
if you are watching it for a certain period of time, you can create your own baseline.
Right.
So even if your times are not exactly correct of what it should take, if you watch it for a month and you say, all right, this month our baseline was 80%, then next month I change my pay structure. And then I'm looking for whatever is better than I determined that my baseline was. My baseline might not be 100%.
Right.
My baseline might be 120%. It just kind of depends on, what times you put in there.
Yes.
It's also hard too because if you're only changing the flapper, it's one time period. And if it's an add-on of replacing the whole inner workings, it's a different time period.
And what a pain in the butt that is.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So get as close as you can on the time and then watch it, monitor it for a month, your billable efficiency, and then create your own baseline.
Yep.
And then make tweaks based on what your baseline is.
I've gone two extremes on this. Prospector, I was like, well, we got to drive to your house. There's 20 minutes. I got to talk to you. That's 15 minutes. I got to change your flapper. There's 5 minutes. I got to bill you. There's 10 minutes. And so our flappers were like an hour and a half task at $600 an hour, 100% material markup. And we didn't sell flappers very well. We sold a few of them, but we would typically, like for us, it was like, well, I can do a flapper. It's $750, or I can replace your whole toilet, or like we could rebuild the toilet for $100 more or something. But then when I started Dude Wash, I was like, I wonder if I can make it so that by adding more time on tasks, if we can have crazy high efficiencies. And we did. We had like 150% billable efficiency. But what happened when I did that was that like I had even more time on tasks. So like the small tasks we never sold, but the bundles that we sold, we were really efficient on.
Yeah.
Like people were willing to pay. Our hourly rate was super low because of it, but it affected our ability to sell those small tasks again. So at Wahoo, we decided, let's just come up with wrench time and a multiplier. So we did 16%.
Where'd you get the 16%?
Just out of my butt. Well, again, a baseline.
Yeah.
We were like, let's just figure out I actually want this to be like a systemized thing. So let's figure out a baseline, like you said. We'll go with wrench time plus 16%, and then we'll run it and see what happens. And then if we can adjust from there. And we'll basically adjust that 16% to 17% or 18% or 19%, depending on what we need to do. The downside of that is that the big long jobs now, like the ones that are 8 hours or whatever, Or like a whole home water filtration system, for instance. It's kind of a lot of time to go put that thing in and
Right.
get the carbon filled up and flush it and whole 9 yards. The 16% of that is a pretty big chunk compared to 16% of a flapper.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but what all business units do you have?
Plumbing? No, I don't even know. That's an Eddie question.
Okay. If you had a business unit that looked like an install and a service, and then a separate one that looked like a service, then you could look at your billable efficiency on your installs and your billable efficiency on your service.
Yeah.
Because they might be two different goal numbers.
Yes, good. I like that idea.
There you go.
Smarty party. Okay. So I worked with a guy, and anytime somebody said something smart, the other person would say smarty pants dance, and the other person had to come up with a smarty pants dance.
I'm out.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was a good time. So we've got revenue coming in. We're taking out money that's getting spent on the job so that we know how much money we're left over with, so that we can have profit first.
Yes.
And then we have an overhead allotment.
Yes.
I see people all the time, their overhead gets crazy.
Yeah.
Like crazy big. How do they keep that controlled?
Say no more often.
I agree. Where do you feel like that happens most?
So that presents itself the most in companies that are like 1 to 3 million. Okay. So less than 1 million, their overhead is usually pretty low because the business owner or the business owner's spouse is doing a lot of the overhead stuff.
Yep.
And they're probably still in the truck, and they don't have as much time to be sold on fancy, shiny objects.
Like AI?
AI and like fancy marketing and all kinds of stuff. And so they, by accident, are keeping their overhead pretty low.
Yeah.
Then around the $1 million mark or so, they start to find themselves out of the truck more and in the office more. They start to go to more conferences.
Mm-hmm.
They start to see more vendors, and they start to get targeted by all kinds of additional services.
Yep.
And then because entrepreneurs are masters at justifying literally every expense there was,
yep,
they justify the need for the overhead expense. And before they actually see the return on investment, before their revenue has actually increased because of that add-on service,
yep,
they go to the next one. And they don't necessarily fully implement the one that they just bought before they're on to the next thing. It's like this cycle. And then before you know it, you're like, holy crap, my overhead is out of control, but the revenue has not gone up in the appropriate fashion to cover the additional overhead.
So if you're going to add overhead, should it in turn increase revenue?
Yes, 100%.
Yes. So that'd be
it is not always going to be a direct. So it's not always going to be a direct correlation, like a price increase, right? A price increase is a direct correlation to increasing in revenue. So your overhead is not always going to be a direct. There's a couple examples where that doesn't actually necessarily apply because it's a business expense that you have to incur no matter what, like liability insurances and all that kind of stuff. We want to make sure that we're properly covered.
Yep.
And that we're quoting it based on what we really anticipate payroll and labor or payroll and revenue and all that's going to be. So there's a handful of things there. Doesn't mean that we don't need to price shop and make sure that we're getting a good rate.
Yep.
But it is what it is. We don't want to get into too big of a rent too soon. We need to be careful about our technology too soon. ServiceTitan is a super wonderful and amazing product, but it's extremely expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are not going to be able to turn an ROI, a significant ROI on it pretty much right away,
yep,
you probably need to wait a little bit.
They don't even need a whole, we ran on QuickBooks we were doing $2 million on just billing through QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Phone app.
I mean,
we waited too long.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Yes.
There's other softwares out there that are significantly less. They obviously are not going to have the bells and whistles that ServiceTitan does,
right,
but there's a reason that ServiceTitan wants a certain number of managed techs before you're ready to onboard.
Yep.
The other thing that with small companies that's tough is you really have to have a dedicated person internally to get ServiceTitan properly onboarded. Otherwise, they're going to hate the software.
Most plumbers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll get on it too early, and they don't have somebody who's like dedicated to get it fully implemented, and then they get frustrated because it's expensive, but they're not getting the ROI because they don't know how to use it or it's not fully implemented.
True story. I got on Service Titan. I didn't know what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what a CRM was. I had no idea.
Well, yeah, if you were from just QuickBooks, just straight to Service Titan, you didn't do anything in the middle?
No.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like,
that's a culture shock. Yeah.
We're screwed.
Yeah.
And
you guys are technologically savvy too.
Fairly. And they used it wrong for like a year and a half. Took us a year and a half to figure it out.
Yeah.
The end of the first year, we found out we double billed a bunch of customers.
Oh, snap.
So I had to give it was like $65,000.
The customers didn't know?
None of them knew.
Wow.
But I had to issue $65,000 of a refund. It was terrible.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Got me to where I am, so not going to complain.
Boy, no, we're not doing that again.
No. No.
Yeah.
So I see it in shiny objects all the time. Oh, this new AI thing or this web scheduler or I don't know.
Yeah.
And I just go back to like, man, before all this stuff was available, people ran companies. Hey guys, real quick, if you need a good marketing agency, I've got the perfect one for you, mammothforplumbers.com/wealthy. We've used Mammoth Marketing for the last 5 or 6 years in every single company, and they've always done a great job for us. They work with plumbers specifically. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're a great agency. If you guys are trying to get more work or you haven't marketed before, you want to grow your business, you've got to market your company. And one of the best ways to do this is to hire someone who's specifically good at marketing your very specific type of company. So go check them out at mammothforplumbers.com/wealthy. Tell them you came from the Wealthy Plumber or the Jared Williams Show, and they'll hook you up.
They did.
Yes.
So I think that there is a time and place for all of the services.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not all of them all at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the biggest thing I would say is that if you're going to do it, go all in and fully implement it.
Yeah.
None of these services are like a set it and forget it situation. Never, like none of them are.
No.
So, yeah, it's probably designed to take less time and be more efficient and cost less overhead and whatever, but it still has to be managed. You still have to watch it and still have to make sure it's working properly and whatever. And so, that I think is probably where we missed the boat of we're paying for it. We're not fully implementing or using it. And
now we're on a 2-year contract. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I agree. How about office staff?
So, there's not a whole lot of individual line items that I usually put a number on in terms of overhead, but office staff is generally one. So your administrative wages, these are everybody that's not a revenue generator. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be CSRs, dispatchers, warehouse people, parts runners, service managers, all the people who are not revenue generators. We want to try to keep that in like a 10% for wages. I'm not talking about benefits and taxes and like none of that, just wages. If we can keep that around 10%, we're running pretty efficient. When we are over that, sometimes it's usually because our office people or our non-revenue generators are paid really high, or there's too many of them, or we have owners in there who are on salary who are eating up a lot of that 10%. But generally, if we can stay around 10%. When you see it drop below 10%, you start to hear things like, I'm busy, I'm overwhelmed, there's too much, I didn't have time.
Yep.
Balls start to get dropped that shouldn't be. Like, how did we not do that, or how did we forget to do that, or whatever? You can usually start seeing those signs when it drops below 10%.
Yep.
And then you'll be like, all right, fine, we'll hire somebody, and you hire somebody, and then it jumps up above 10% for a little while. But having that extra person means now we can process more jobs through the admin team, and eventually our revenue should continue to move up because of it.
Is there like a ratio of office staff to revenue?
Oh, that's one of those ones where if you ask 10 people, you'll get 10 different answers. Not 1-to-1.
No.
I would say at least 3 or 4-to-1.
Yeah.
But again, it really just depends on what all.
It doesn't really matter if you're making money at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Is your net income where it needs to be? Then who cares if it's 1-to-1 is kind of my thought process. Now you could be leaving money on the table when it could be higher than what it is. But
Yeah.
there's also another figure that some people in the industry use, and it's like amount of revenue generated per head, regardless of if they are a revenue generator or not. So that number tends to range somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 a year in revenue per FTE, full-time employee.
Yep.
Sometimes can be like a gauge too to see if you're staffed. It doesn't necessarily give you the revenue to non-revenue generator ratio so much.
What I didn't like about that number is that it's just revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like our revenue numbers, we were higher than that always. We were
per tech or for everybody?
Per head.
Yeah.
We were always in the 400,000 to 500,000 per head in the company.
Mm-hmm.
But there were times where our profit was like 10% at those revenues.
Yeah.
Because our efficiency was terrible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It was terrible. Okay. I see that one a lot, especially with older businesses.
Yeah.
Tons of people in the office. I'm like, there's like 6 people on the field and 10 people in the office. So I'm like, what is all? I don't even know I don't understand because I've never been involved in one. But I asked the owners, like, what do those people do?
Mm-hmm.
How do you?
Sure, they're probably really busy.
They are
busy being busy.
And I'm like, can you, like, is that necessary? And they're always like, yeah, I don't know how to do without it. I'm like,
how often do you hear? But this is how we've always done it.
Oh, all the time.
I know.
Yeah.
I hate it.
This is how I've always done it.
I don't care. We've always done it. Okay, but it's 20 years later. Technology is different. Systems are different. Process, like everything's different. So, yeah, I see that. I see that for sure. It comes across with lots of extra people, and everybody's busy.
Agreed. Okay, before we move on to the balance sheet, what about people who are okay? I ran into this guy with an old company. All of his trucks were paid off. Like his dad owned the company, paid all the equipment, all the trucks off. He takes it over. And he tells me after, so he started having to replace his trucks, and he would count the depreciation as income that he got to keep, basically. And that's how he got to his 20% net profits.
His depreciation.
Right.
Okay.
So he would make the money. His business was really doing, let's say, 10% net. And he goes, after adding back in depreciation, I'm really at 20%. So I'm doing good.
So he was looking at EBITDA, I guess.
Yeah.
Earning, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Depreciation is looked at in a couple of different manners.
Mm-hmm.
So, specifically in QuickBooks, there's a line in between overhead and depreciation and things like your other section. That line in between there is called net operating income.
Okay.
If the taxes that you pay, not payroll taxes, but like income taxes, depreciation, amortization, and interest earned, not interest spent. If those are down there in the other section and then my net operating income is really close to EBITDA. And EBITDA is a buzzword in the industry because private equity looks at EBITDA.
Yep.
Okay. So if private equity is looking at EBITDA, not including depreciation, then that would be where we would be. If EBITDA at 20%, not including depreciation, is what private equity is looking for, cool. Then I would still keep it below the line.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thought process on that. Yes, I know that depreciation is technically supposed to be preparing your budget for that future expense, is essentially what depreciation is. It says, I know that we're taking the cost of this item over time, and if I were to take it very literally, it would be, I would need to take that amount out of my bank account and stick it in a savings account and let it build so that when I had to go buy that thing again in 5 years or 10 years or however long it was, I had the cash pile ready to go.
Yep.
But very few people actually treat depreciation in that manner.
Yep.
They use it like a tax write-off.
Yep.
And they finance their vehicle anyway. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Speaking of tax write-offs, what's your favorite tax write-off?
Depreciation.
Same. I'm not doing anything else anymore. I'm not buying any real estate.
Yeah.
Nothing. Just If I need depreciation, I'm either going to grow the service business I have or have another service business.
All right. So I learned a hard personal lesson about this.
Okay.
Okay. So we accelerated depreciation on pretty much everything we bought. Every year we bought it under the Section 179.
Yep.
And then we sold a business.
And you got to pay the recapture.
And then we had to pay the recapture. And I did not realize that. I'm not a tax accountant. I took one tax class in college and I was like, this sucks. I'm not doing this for a living. And I have a really great CPA that does all of that thinking for me.
Yep.
And I just didn't realize it. So then we're like going through the tax return on the year that we sold the business. And I was like, oh my God, that's a big check I have to write.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, but you depreciated, blah, 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 blah. And now that's considered a capital gain. And I was like, all right, cool. So I might have done a little bit different strategy if I knew that selling was coming before the end of depreciation.
Yep.
So before the end of the useful life, I guess. I probably would have thought about that a little differently.
Yeah. I could see using the depreciation to hang on to more cash to grow your business faster, to get to higher revenues and hopefully net profits, but then slowing that down and actually taking the full 5 years on a vehicle to depreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Fun. That was a fun lesson.
I bet.
The best lessons are the ones you have to write a big fat check for.
Yeah, I've done a lot of those in my lifetime. When I sold Prospector, like looking back, I probably shouldn't have sold it. I should have just kept it because it produced a lot of cash for very little headache. But I just wanted the experience of selling a business to see what it was like. And it was an experience. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made me, I feel like it made me understand the business much better.
Yes.
Having to go through the quality of earnings.
Yes.
Having to look at a contract and understand all the parts and pieces of it. Now I have a much better understanding of like what somebody who buys a business is looking for.
Yes.
And I can build that for them much better. Hopefully. That's the goal. Yeah. We'll see. Okay. So when we get over to, we covered the P&L.
Yes.
That's how simple it is. That's the silly part.
Simple but not easy always.
Understanding what's on your P&L is simple, but then now one thing I noticed is like I always had access to my QuickBooks account, QuickBooks Online.
Yeah.
So I would go in and if I didn't know what something on my P&L was, I'd go click on it.
Yeah.
And see what those expenses are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bookkeepers out there who don't give their clients access.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild to me. Because how are they supposed to know what's going in there?
When I take somebody on as a virtual CFO client and we do our monthly reviews, I tell them that we need, whether they give me access to their account or not, it doesn't matter, but we need to do our reviews in live QuickBooks Online. Do not send over a PDF because then if there's a question, we cannot drill down right then and there and solve it.
Right.
So if, I'll ask somebody, well, what did your bookkeeper put in blah, blah, blah expenses? And they're like, oh no. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's figure out what's in there.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And then a lot of times, do you find that bookkeepers are putting a bunch of stuff in weird spots and the business owner has no idea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There can be some inconsistencies. So, but I can also see how it happens too. Most bookkeepers are going to be pretty much recording on a cash basis, and they're really just classifying the transactions that are coming in on the bank transaction screen in QuickBooks.
Yep.
When your bank account and your credit cards and everything are attached to QuickBooks Online, those transactions just sit on this holding screen, and then the bookkeeper goes down and says, add, or accept the whole way down the thing.
Yep.
So it's super easy to just move too fast through all of that, and chances are, a lot of bookkeepers, honestly, don't charge enough.
Yeah.
And so they're just trying to get through it as fast as they can so that they can keep their revenue at a place where it needs to be.
Yep.
And you lose a lot of consistency through that.
Yep. I agree. Plus, it's hard for the bookkeeper to know if that Home Depot transaction was tools or materials.
For sure.
Yeah. Or what was this Amazon transaction for? I can't even remember half the time.
Right.
Yeah. How do you, in your guys' businesses, how would you deal with that for the bookkeeper? Would she send you like a report of?
No. So we always had a dedicated accounting email set up.
Mm-hmm.
And then anybody who was authorized to make purchases, whether in a store or online, anytime that they've spent any kind of money, they needed to turn in a receipt or take a screen grab of what it is that they purchased. It needed to have the vendor, what they bought, and the total amount.
Mm-hmm.
And then it needed, in the email, they needed to say this was for tools, or this was for parts service department, parts installation. Here's the Joe Schmo's installation. This is for his job.
Yeah.
And they had to do that for everything. And if there was charges that came through that we did not have documentation on, we were reaching out to the cardholder and saying, hey, what did you buy here? I need your receipt. Turn in your receipt. And we were on them enough that if they were a habitual offender of not turning in a receipt, that they would lose their card and they would have to use their own card for a period of time and turn in receipts for reimbursement. And let me tell you what they didn't lose when they had to turn in for reimbursement.
Receipts. Yep.
So it's not very often that we would have to come to that, but that was on the table as a consequence if you couldn't get your receipts.
I imagine you do that for one or two guys.
Yeah.
All of the other guys are like,
it's a different.
I never turn in my receipts. Yeah.
But before that, oh my God, it got washed. It flew out the window. My dog ate it. Like, God knows all of the excuses that we got why we didn't have a receipt.
Yep. We've had that with iPads. Oh,
I had a guy tell us that he was at his stoplight and some dude stole the dolly out of the back of his truck while he was at a stoplight. What really happened is he probably left it at a job site.
Probably. Okay, so can you give me a quick rundown of the balance sheet?
Yeah, so balance sheet's a little trickier than the income statement.
Yep.
However, it's called a balance sheet because all of your assets added up equal all of the liabilities and the equity added up.
Yep.
So if you think about a scale where you have weights on both sides, your assets are on one side and your liabilities and equity on the other. However, what's an even easier way to think about it than that is the home buying process.
Mm-hmm.
So you buy a house and you pay $400,000 for it, and maybe your mortgage amount is $300,000. The equity in the home is $100,000.
Yep.
Okay. So the asset is the home, the liability is the mortgage, and the equity is the difference between the two. Yep. Same thing for a balance sheet.
Gotcha.
So our equity in the business is kind of like the equity in the home, and the more equity, the better. We want our equity to be a positive number.
What goes into that equity category?
It's so the main thing that funnels into that builds it is going to be positive net income.
Yep.
If you have positive net income over a long period of time, then your equity continues to build. However, there's another way that you can build equity, and that would be infusing your own money into the business. Yep. So you can infuse capital. That increases equity. What decreases equity is negative net income and excessive amounts of owner draws.
Yep.
Will deplete the equity. And we want that to be positive. If it's negative, it means that you have greater liabilities than assets. Banks don't like that very much.
Right.
So we want to try to get that positive. And you can use debt to finance your business. You can use debt in a smart way without hurting your equity. So it's not that it's a situation where if you don't have any debt, then automatically your equity is good. That's not necessarily the case. But yeah, we want our assets to outweigh our liability.
So what do they need to look for? Well, the balance sheet, again, that's a snapshot in time, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a snapshot in time. So the P&L or the income statement is looking at a cumulative time period.
Yep.
And the balance sheet is a snapshot in time. So it's looking at, like, specifically, it always is going to start with your bank accounts and your petty cash account if you have one. So that is going to be like, let's say you run your balance sheet for December 31st. It's what the balance was on December 31st.
Yep.
But like, it could change 5 minutes later. Right? Because every time something comes in or goes out of your bank account, that balance is going to be affected. So it's going to change. If you were to run it one day later, the numbers would be different. Yep. You're always going to have your cash accounts, and then you're going to have accounts receivable, which is what everybody owes you. And then you have inventory if you count inventory on your books. Some people do, some people don't. And then you're going to have Let's see what else. That's going to be the majority of your current assets, and then long-term assets are the things you depreciate.
Yep. And then where does our payment on our debt go?
Well, it goes in two places. The payment on your debt, the principal, is going to go to reduce your liability, just like it reduces your loan balance on your statement. It reduces the liability on the balance sheet.
Yep.
And then the interest piece of it goes over to the P&L as an expense.
Yep.
But the full payment comes out of your account.
It does.
And that is a negative cash flow. And so that amount that we are not seeing on the P&L, that principal amount, shows up as a negative cash withdrawal on your statement of cash flows.
And that's that way for any debts.
Yes.
Yes. And that's why sometimes there's no money left over.
Yeah.
Sometimes
there's no money left over. If there's a lot of debts in the company, and there's a lot of those payments aren't going out each month, we're capturing the interest piece as an expense on the P&L, but all of that principal, we're not. And it's reducing cash flow each month. So if we were looking at our cash flow statement, we would see a grouping of all of those together, and it would give us a total of all of the principal payments that you made for that month. So let's say that you had, 6 vehicle loans, an SBA loan, and a loan from your grandma down the street, and you're paying all of these payments every month, and the principal piece of it is $15,000.
Yep.
Well, in order to not get upside down on cash, we need to make sure that our net income is at least $15,000,
right?
So that we're generating at least a minimum amount of cash to cover what we know is not showing up on the P&L in those principal payments.
And any cash that hits the bottom line on your P&L, you could immediately take your debt payments out, say this is the actual cash that I should have.
Yeah. So there's a few more moving parts to your statement of cash flow and the movement of cash in general to take into consideration. Accounts receivable and accounts payable are a biggie. So if your income statement is accrual, we've counted the revenue that you did. You might not have gotten paid for all of it yet.
Gotcha.
Okay, so let's say that you had a super big commercial job that you did that month that was like $60,000, and you're like, yeah. But commercial jobs don't pay right away.
Yep.
So we're showing the revenue of that giant job up there, and it's making our net income look really free and sweet. But we're like, where is the money to pay payroll for this?
Yep.
Okay, so then we come over to our statement of cash flows, and we see that we have actually a negative cash flow for accounts receivable because we haven't gotten that money in yet.
So you told me this last time, and I looked at statement of cash flows.
Yeah.
And I believe I was confused.
Yeah. Okay, so there's 3 pieces to the statement of cash flows. The first section is operating, and that one, honestly, I think is the hardest one to picture. The other 2 sections, the middle one is called investing. So if you buy a trailer for $15,000 and you pay cash for it, it's going to come out as a $15,000 negative cash flow. It's not something that would have gone on the P&L because you're going to capitalize it. You're going to depreciate it every time. Right. So it's not part of your net income. We wouldn't have seen it there. It's shown up on the balance sheet, but not very clearly.
Right.
But it dang sure came out of your bank account, right? So it's going to show up on that statement of cash flows. So that's that middle investing section. And the bottom section, the financing, is going to show our principal payments for our loans and any money that we pulled out as owners, distributions.
Gotcha.
Okay. The top section, though, that one's a little trickier because essentially what it's saying is that for every line item that shows up in that section, it's saying this is how much the balance of this account changed from the beginning of the month to the end of the month and how that change affects cash. So if we have an accounts receivable line item on there, that's a negative amount. Let's say it's negative $20,000.
Yep.
It's saying that our accounts receivable balance changed by $20,000 from the beginning of the month to the end of the month.
Yep.
And because it's a negative amount, it technically means our account balance went up. So more people now owe us money at the end of the month than they did at the beginning of the month because it's considered a negative cash flow. When it's a positive number, now it's the amount in which the account changed from the beginning of the time period to the end of the time period and how that change affects cash.
Yep.
So if it's positive, that means your accounts receivable balance went down.
Yep.
Your bank account went up.
Yep.
Your cash increases.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that one, because you really have to think about like if this balance of this line item changes, what does it do to my cash? That's kind of how you have to look at each line item in that whole top section because they all have different characteristics.
Is that just accounts receivable that goes up there?
No, there's accounts receivable, accounts payable, changes in credit card balances, basically changes in payables, essentially.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And so we should be able to pull our P&L and pull that statement of cash flows and get a real idea of how much cash we should have.
Yes. So the top of the cash flow statement is going to pull the net income from the bottom of the P&L. So it's always going to start with that number.
Gotcha.
And then it's going to adjust cash based on your change in accounts receivable, your change in AP, your change in credit card balances, changing in any payables and stuff like that. And then it's going to adjust it based on what you took out for investing if there was anything. That's usually not an every month thing. Mm-hmm. Then it's going to change your cash based on your principal payments and your draws. And then at the very bottom, it's going to say cash at the beginning of the period and cash at the end of the period. That does not mean that you can go to your bank account right now and see that number.
Right.
It just means that if all of the things came true at this exact moment, This is what the cash balance would be. But the whole point of it is to make that connection between what's happening on the P&L when we're looking at it in accrual and what's happening with cash.
Yep.
And so when we see month over month over month where the beginning cash amount is greater than the ending cash amount, then that tells us that the business is starving for cash and not generating enough to cover what's happening off the P&L.
Yep. How often do you see
that?
Yeah. Sure.
It's pretty often, but like it's not sustainable for very long. So the hope is that we can catch them before they're just completely out of cash and have no more to infuse into the business.
Yeah.
When that happens month over month over month, then we're getting, oh Lord, we're getting these crazy capital loans with insane interest rates, and we're borrowing money from friends and family, and we're like literally trying to stuff cash into this machine, but we don't really know why we're having to do that. And so if we can catch them before they get too far down, then we can say, okay, tweak this, this, and this, and then let's get that net income positive greater than what your liabilities are or your principal payments are, and let's start building equity. But what's more exciting is we just finished a year. So to be able to look at somebody's balance sheet month over month for 12 months and say, hey, this January, your equity was negative $235,000, and December it's positive $700,000.
Yeah.
That's like $1 million swing.
Yeah.
Like freaking fantastic. Isn't that fun?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you see people taking all the cash out of the business via owner draws?
That happens pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And starving the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people who are like, well, I mean, I have bills at home to pay. I
get it.
I hear ya. I hear ya.
Yeah.
But you can't totally cash starve the business.
Right.
Can't totally cash starve it.
Plus, that's no fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's no fun if you make $1 million and you live on $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's like making 50 grand and living on 50 grand.
Yeah.
Feels the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. The happiness is in the gap.
That's right.
That's what I think. That's my happy spot. I'm the happiest when I have the least amount of bills and the most amount of money. Because I can do what I want when I want.
That's right.
Yep. Well, cool. Anything else you want to pass on?
Well, we have an event coming up that I think is pretty exciting.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be so cool.
I had to write down the dates because I had to remember.
I know. So what happened was last year, Virtual CFO and Freedom Blueprint podcast did an event here in Pensacola.
Yep.
And then like 6 months later, Wealthy Plumber did an event here in Pensacola.
Yep.
And then so for 2026, since we're all here in Pensacola, we were like, let's do this together.
Yeah.
So
one slightly bigger event.
Slightly bigger event.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Me too.
It's going to be Pensacola Beach, which is awesome.
Yep.
September 8th and 9th, which is the Tuesday and Wednesday after Labor Day. So you'll be able to come early. You'll be able to take advantage of a room block rate for a holiday weekend on Pensacola Beach, which that's awesome.
Yep.
And then you can learn all kinds of really cool stuff about finding the right people.
Yep.
And keeping the right people and motivating them. And we're going to bust the myth of there's nobody wants to work.
I'm going to give a talk and I'm just going to say, good luck. Just kidding.
Well, you're like fresh in it's actually good timing, I think, because you're like fresh in the middle of building team in a relatively new environment.
Yep. That's something we haven't, because we hired out of the union in our last company. You just got who you got. And you would bring them in and you'd say, well, you suck.
Yeah.
You'd take them back to the union hall and then hope they got somebody else. And most of the time they didn't. And it was terrible.
Well, so the challenge, I think, with all of that is every market is going to be a little different, especially with licensing and, that kind of stuff. But there is some commonalities that we as business owners can control.
Yeah.
Culture is a big thing.
Yes.
Our leadership and our ability to be good leaders in our company is super important.
Yes.
So I think the better we are as business owners and leader in our company, the better team members that we're going to draw in. And that makes a big difference.
The last time we recorded this podcast and it didn't record, you said it's all about the people.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but for some reason that stuck with me. And it's not it's like all about finding the right people to come into your business. Yes. The more I do this, not podcast, but the more I do the business stuff, the more I realize the person you put in the seat matters. It's so much.
Yes.
It's like incredible.
It sure does. And there's so many things that we talk about hiring for attitude and teaching the skill. Mm-hmm. That really is a thing. Yeah. If you can find somebody who really meshes with your culture and is able to learn, that is a much better hire, in my opinion, than somebody who already knows the skill but has a crappy attitude.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. I think about me when I was like a second-year apprentice. I could have went and ran any service call, and I would have had a good attitude about it. And I would have hired myself. Yeah. But I don't know too many people like that. But it's doable. Like, obviously, you guys did in your business. Yeah.
It's going to be cool. I like the opportunity to get together with business owners, and I like the opportunity for business owners to be in the same room with other business owners.
Yep.
That downtime between sessions and between people on stage is so invaluable.
Yep.
The time that you're chatting with people at your table or at lunch or at happy hour or whatever, that is just, you get so much from that.
Even like when, we had people last year, they created their own little social groups.
Yes.
Like it was all people who were in the Wealthy Plumber group. And then now they have 3 or 4 guys that they can text every day with where they're like, hey, this is what I'm running into. What do I do? Or pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just get your own little community of people doing like-minded stuff.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So they should block off their calendars because they can't buy tickets yet.
That's right. So I would imagine by the time this episode airs, we will have a landing page ready to go.
Okay. Deal.
So you'll be able to put in the show notes the link to the landing page.
We will do our best for that.
Okay.
If we don't put it in there, go to wealthyplumber.com.
There you go.
And then click on the hoorah button.
There you go.
And
Perfect.
that will take you there. And if you're able to buy, that means we solved the buying problem.
That means that tickets are available to buy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
If you guys want more information like this, make sure and click the other link in the description and check out our Wealthy Plumber coaching program where we have all of this kind of information up for grabs for you guys to learn. 7-day free trial. After that, it's $99 a month. If you hate it, leave. If you like it, stay. It's cool. Go check it out.